4 months ago, I made the life-changing decision to start learning to play the saxophone and also to learn how to read music. So today we are going to see the entire progression from day one, and if 120 plus days of practice will actually pay off. After returning from a trip to Japan, where I would often hear some faint and distant sounds of bossa nova, jazz, and saxophone music pretty much everywhere I went, I decided to rent a tenor saxophone and give it a go. But as the waiting went from days to weeks, I decided to bite the bullet and I ordered an alto saxophone online, and they both ended up arriving at around the same time. The first few days were somewhat very frustrating. Now. And believe me or not, I truly thought that all I needed to do was to blow at the end of the saxophone and press the right keys. And I genuinely thought that I would be able to play beautifully Take 5 and Misty right in the first day. The repertoire for the coming days after the initial shock included Feliz Navidad, beautifully executed My Heart Will Go On by Celine Dion, all from YouTube channels that had this really weird horizontal Tetris games that kept flipping really quickly. So you can imagine I was really frustrated for the first couple of days trying to figure out the keys and trying to produce some kind of sound that sounded at least similar to a saxophone. And as a contrast, what saved me in the first few days and kept me really motivated were beginner-friendly videos that had songs like Hot Cross Buns, exactly what I needed at that stage. Fast forwards a couple of days, I had already enrolled in 2 online courses, such as the Sax School Online and also the Better Sax. I also familiarized myself with very basic music notations, while still very dependent on the names of the notes on the top of each one of the cymbals. And this lasted for quite some time. The 2 courses online helped me immensely, and I've learned so much in the first month. However, I felt that they were a little too advanced and too fast-paced for my level. I would highly recommend you try to learn the keys first, the key fingerings first. By this time, I already had some very basic knowledge of music, so I was able to start playing very basic tunes and pop songs. Even though I still had to look at my own writing and see the names of the notes. At this stage as well, there were 2 things that I could not shake off. 1, wandering fingers, and also a very stiff fingering stance, which I'm still struggling today. Now, because I am somewhat okay with fixing very small things on my motorbikes, which I have had for a number of years now, I ordered one of those lick lights online. It is USB powered and it stays connected under my desk 24/7, and they have come really handy so far. Often I would find that something was not quite right with the sound, and I would put it in the saxophone, and instantly I was able to spot the lick and fix it. But I'll make some videos about it at some stage. As the weeks progressed and I survived the first 30 days of learning to play the saxophone and how to read music, both solo and also in my online courses, I was able to play some simple songs either from memory or following music scores. I was able to give myself a chance and try Happy Birthday again, which I failed miserably in the first couple of days. At this stage, I had already bought my very first tenor saxophone, a red and black Eastern music, or aka the Imperium. And I also bought a whole bunch of beginner books, and in my opinion, they still feel really overwhelming because there's so much information in one single page. I'm guessing they are trying to save money and also save paper. Besides, when I listened to the soundtrack that was coming with those books, I never actually sounded anything like the soundtracks. On a brighter note, I came across some ebooks on the Internet Archive, such as the Universal Method for Saxophone. They're a lot easier to follow, cleaner, with a much easier to look at layout. This sort of books have become my go-to reading whenever I'm not actually able to play the saxophone. Sort of halfway through the second month, I was already practicing long tones every single day, and I also came across this really useful app called, I believe it is called 3D Saxophone. It is entirely free. You can play each one of the sounds and it shows you the fingerings for all sorts of saxophones. And again, it is completely free. So if you are a beginner and you're looking for a really good app to sort of help you to memorize the keys and also the sounds, I highly recommend you check that app. By the end of month 2, I made a high priority to start learning vibrato, you know, like a humming at the end of each note. So at the end of each note, I try to add a little bit of my own personality, I guess. I suppose I am still overdoing it. Somehow, probably because of muscle memory from practicing long tones every day, I started playing some really random tunes, and then suddenly I had this song that was starting to develop, and this was all happening very naturally to me. I'm still working on it. Now, sadly, by the third month, I was starting to feel like I was doing okay, but I wasn't actually progressing with anything. I was trying, multiple songs, multiple things all at the same time, but not actually getting any better at anything. I needed some structure, but by then I had already canceled my 2 online courses because they felt really fast-paced for me. The books that I got were really overwhelming. My cheap reads were betraying me. And I wasn't ready to start learning scales yet because I have the memory of a goldfish. So I started experimenting with more expensive reeds and mouthpieces. I started learning songs by ear a lot more often.
Where did it go? The bluebird I should follow.
And focusing on one song at a time for a couple of days before I moved on and tried something else. Besides, I found that learning songs that meant something to me, that were part of my history, helped me immensely to keep learning and to keep motivated. Fast forward 4 months in the present time, I am now able to proficiently read music without having to write my own, the names of the notes anywhere. I'm still struggling with metronomes and struggling to follow soundtracks. Overall, my sound has improved a little bit, but I still feel like I still sound really flat. I am also sadly struggling with the high notes and the low notes. Particularly on the tenor. Even after purchasing a very expensive reed and also a bunch of mouthpieces that I thought would solve all of my problems. If a guy like me with a very short memory can go from zero to learning to read music and also playing the saxophone, I think you can start that thing you have been putting off for so long. Remember, take your time. Don't rush yourself. Don't put too much pressure on yourself like I did in the first couple of days. And as another YouTuber has also mentioned, please don't compare yourself to other people on YouTube because we all are very unique individuals. We have our strengths and we have our weaknesses. So I will keep learning at my own pace, very slowly. I will eventually learn scales to improve my sound, and hopefully by year number 1 I would be able perhaps to play my favorite songs by ear and sounding a lot better than what I am now. The journey doesn't stop here. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you check those 2 that are on the screen now. My name is Rick and I'm based in New Zealand. Thank you for watching.